What if I told you that just a handful of simple movements done consistently every day could quietly but powerfully extend your life, and not just by a little, but in ways that outperform most medications we rely on today? That's not a dramatic claim. It's a scientific one. Because when you look at the growing body of research, hundreds upon hundreds of studies all point in the same direction. The way you move your body daily has a deeper, more lasting impact on your health than most drugs ever could. And that's coming from a doctor. Just pause on that idea for a second. Think about the scale of modern medicine. Billions of dollars poured into developing treatments, yet so many of those treatments are designed to manage symptoms rather than address the root cause. Movement, on the other hand, works at the foundation. And the best part is, you don't need a gym membership. You don't need an hour carved out of your day. And you certainly don't need to do everything at once. These movements can be scattered naturally throughout your routine, layered into your day, until they become as automatic as brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee. Once they become habits, they stop feeling like effort and start becoming part of who you are. And when that shift happens, the science is clear: your chances of living longer, healthier, and more independently increase in a very real way. So if you're someone who doesn't consider themselves particularly active, or maybe you've been meaning to start but haven't quite found the right approach, then this is exactly where you begin. Now, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Dr. Alex, and every day I see firsthand what happens when the body is neglected over time. My goal here is simple: to help you avoid the things I witness far too often. And if you take something valuable from this, all I ask is that you support the channel. It genuinely helps me continue sharing this kind of information with you. Because what I see in A and E isn't some rare or dramatic outcome. It's the quiet, predictable result of years of inactivity. I meet people in their 60s and 70s who can no longer stand up from a chair without assistance. People who fall not because of bad luck, but because their balance has slowly deteriorated. Individuals whose hearts, joints, and blood sugar levels have declined not from a single major event, but from thousands of days where movement simply wasn't enough. And what stays with me every single time is just how preventable so much of it is. That's what makes this conversation so important. Because today, I'm not giving you an overwhelming fitness routine or asking you to transform your life overnight. I'm giving you 8 simple movements, just 8, that when done consistently can dramatically shift your long-term health. This isn't about becoming an athlete. It's about understanding what the minimum effective dose of movement looks like and why each piece matters at a biological level. And once you understand that, everything changes. So let's start with the simplest one, the one most people overlook precisely because it feels too basic to matter: walking. I know it sounds almost underwhelming, like it couldn't possibly be powerful enough to make a real difference. But the evidence behind it is incredibly strong, and it's impossible to ignore. Walking, even for just 10 to 20 minutes a day, has been consistently shown to lower blood pressure, improve blood sugar regulation, reduce the risk of heart disease, and even slow down cognitive decline as we age. And the reason it works is fascinating. When you walk, your leg muscles contract in a rhythmic pattern, and that motion actually helps push blood back toward your heart, almost like a secondary pumping system. At the same time, your blood vessels respond to this increased flow by becoming more flexible, which is critical because stiff blood vessels are one of the main contributors to high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease over time. Then there's the impact on blood sugar, which becomes especially important after meals. Your muscles act like a sponge for glucose, absorbing sugar directly from your bloodstream when they're active, without even needing insulin to do the job. So if you're concerned about prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or just maintaining stable energy levels, something as simple as a short walk after eating can be one of the most effective tools available to you. Walking isn't just another activity, it's the foundation that everything else builds upon. And the research supports this in a very clear way. A large study published in JAMA Internal Medicine followed more than 16,000 older women and found that those who walked around 4,500 steps per day had significantly lower mortality rates compared to those walking only 2,500. And interestingly, the benefits continue to increase up to about 7,500 steps before leveling off. So no, you don't need to chase 10,000 steps as some kind of rigid target. More can help, but even reaching that 7,500 range offers substantial benefits. For most people, this simply means moving more than you currently do. And if you're just starting out, forget about speed or distance. Walk to the end of your street and back. Take a short route and gradually build from there. Use supportive shoes. Choose flat surfaces where possible. And if you need assistance, like a walking stick, then use it without hesitation. There's no version of this where that doesn't count. The goal is consistency, not perfection. Even 5 minutes matters because your body adapts to what you repeatedly do. And if you give it the chance, it will respond in ways that support you for years to come. Now, let's move into the second movement. And this one is far more important than most people realize. Even though it looks incredibly simple on the surface, we're talking about squats, but not in the way fitness culture usually presents them. This isn't about building big legs or chasing strength goals in the gym. This is about something much more fundamental, your ability to lower yourself down and then stand back up again. That one movement, done without assistance, is one of the strongest indicators we have of how long and how well someone is likely to live. When I look at patients in their 80s who are still independent, still mobile, still sharp, almost all of them can perform this basic action without difficulty. On the other hand, those who struggle to get up from a chair or need help just to stand often lose that independence very quickly. And when you break it down biologically, it makes complete sense. Your leg muscles, especially your quadriceps and glutes, are among the largest muscle groups in your entire body. These muscles play a massive role in regulating your metabolism, improving insulin sensitivity, and supporting overall survival during illness. Muscle mass is not just about strength, it's directly linked to how resilient your body is under stress. Even doing something as simple as 10 to 15 squats per day helps maintain the neural pathways that allow your brain to communicate effectively with your muscles. Because here's something most people don't think about. Movement is not just physical, it's neurological. Your brain has to repeatedly practice sending the signal to perform that motion. And if you stop practicing, that connection weakens over time. There's actually a fascinating study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology that really highlights just how powerful this is. Researchers asked middle-aged adults to sit down on the floor and then stand back up again without using their hands or knees. They were scored out of 10 based on how well they performed. And what they found was striking. For every single point someone lost on that score, their risk of dying over the next 6 years increased by 21%. That's an enormous difference for something that seems so simple. And when you think about it, that test is essentially measuring the same thing as a squat, your ability to control your body, maintain strength, and move through space efficiently. So when you practice squats daily, you're not just exercising your muscles, you're maintaining a critical life skill that directly influences your independence and longevity. Now, if you're wondering how to start safely, it doesn't need to be complicated. Begin by standing in front of a sturdy chair. Place your feet about shoulder width apart with your toes pointing slightly outward. Slowly lower yourself down as if you're about to sit, controlling the movement as much as possible. and then push yourself back up before fully sitting. If that feels too difficult, and for many people starting out, it absolutely will then simply sit down fully and then stand back up again. That still counts. That is the exact movement pattern we're trying to preserve. If balance is a concern, you can hold on to a kitchen counter or the back of the chair for support. There is no downside to making it easier at the beginning. Over time, as your strength improves, you'll naturally rely less on that support. Focus on keeping your chest upright and avoid letting your knees collapse inward as you move. Only go as low as feels comfortable. There's no need to force depth. Even a small bend followed by standing back up is beneficial. And if you can aim for around 20 to 30 repetitions throughout the day, even if they're broken into smaller sets, that's an excellent place to start. The goal isn't intensity, it's consistency. Because what you're really doing here is reinforcing a movement pattern that your body will depend on for the rest of your life. Now let's talk about the third movement, which is push-ups, or a modified version like wall push-ups if a traditional push-up feels out of reach right now. This is a larger, more demanding movement, but it's incredibly valuable for a reason. As we age, upper body strength tends to decline much faster than most people realize. And the problem is, it often goes unnoticed until it's already significantly reduced. Push-ups target multiple muscle groups at once: your chest, your shoulders, your triceps, and importantly, your core. It's a full body movement disguised as an upper body exercise. And beyond just strength, there's a strong connection between push-up ability and overall health outcomes. In fact, a study published in JAMA followed middle-aged men over a 10-year period and found that those who could perform more than 40 push-ups had a dramatically lower risk of cardiovascular events compared to those who could do fewer than 10. Now, that doesn't mean push-ups alone are the cause, but it clearly shows that upper body strength is a powerful marker of overall health. And this idea is reinforced even further by a large analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which looked at nearly 2 million individuals. The results showed that higher levels of muscle strength were associated with a 30 to 40% lower risk of death from all causes, including serious conditions like cancer. That tells us something important. Strength is not just about appearance, it's about survival. And the good news is, you don't need to start with full push-ups on the floor. Wall push-ups are a completely valid and effective place to begin. Stand about an arm's length away from a wall. Place your hands flat against it at shoulder height and shoulder width apart, and slowly bend your elbows to bring your chest toward the wall. Then push yourself back to the starting position. That's the movement. It's simple, controlled, and highly effective. As this becomes easier over time, you can gradually increase the challenge by moving to a lower surface, like a kitchen countertop. And if you eventually want to progress to floor push-ups, you can start on your knees instead of your toes. That progression is perfectly normal and still very beneficial. The key is to keep your body in a straight line and avoid letting your lower back sag. Even starting with just 5 repetitions a day is enough to begin building strength. And from there, you simply build at your own pace. Because once again, the goal here is not perfection, it's steady, consistent improvement that compounds over time. Now we move on to the fourth movement, and this is one that almost feels too simple to matter, yet it carries some of the most serious implications for long-term health. This is single leg balance. All it involves is standing on one leg for about 30 seconds on each side. That's it. No equipment, no intensity, nothing complicated, and yet, behind this very basic action lies a deep connection to your risk of injury, independence, and even survival. Because one of the most common and dangerous events we see, especially in older adults, is falling. In A and E, This isn't rare. It happens multiple times every single day. And when you look at the root cause of many of these falls, it often comes down to one thing: a loss of balance. Your ability to stand on one leg is actually a direct reflection of how well your body can coordinate itself. It's a test of your nervous system, your muscles, your joints, and your inner ear, all working together in real time. There was a study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that found individuals who couldn't balance on one leg for just 10 seconds had a significantly higher risk of dying within the next decade, even after accounting for other health factors. That's a powerful association for such a simple test. The reason this matters so much is because balance is not just a physical trait, it's a skill that depends on constant communication between different systems in your body. Your brain has to process signals from your eyes, your inner ear, and the receptors in your joints and muscles, and then send precise instructions back to maintain stability. And just like strength or flexibility, if you don't use it, you lose it. Over time, that coordination starts to fade, and the consequences can be severe. According to the World Health Organization, falls are the second leading cause of accidental death worldwide. And when it comes to hip fractures, which are very common after falls in older adults, the statistics are particularly concerning. Around 20 to 30% of people who suffer a hip fracture will not survive beyond the first year. That's not a small risk, and a significant portion of that risk begins with declining balance. The encouraging part is that balance is highly trainable. You can improve it at any age, and it doesn't require a dedicated workout session. You can practice it while brushing your teeth, while cooking, or even while standing and talking on the phone. If 30 seconds feels difficult at first, that's completely normal and actually highlights how valuable this practice will be for you. To start safely, stand near a wall or a sturdy surface like a kitchen counter and lightly rest your fingertips on it for support. Then lift one foot slightly off the ground, even just a centimeter is enough, and hold that position. As days and weeks go by, gradually reduce how much you rely on that support until you're barely touching it, and eventually not at all. Build up slowly from a few seconds to 10, then 20, and eventually 30 seconds. The key here is patience. This is not about rushing progress. It's about gently training your body to regain and maintain control. Always practice somewhere safe where you can steady yourself if needed. Because over time, this small habit can make a very real difference in preventing injuries that could otherwise have life-altering consequences. Now let's talk about the fifth movement, which might sound a bit technical at first, but in reality, it's very simple. This is the hip hinge. It's essentially the same movement pattern you'd use in a deadlift, but without any weights. And before you dismiss it, this movement targets an area of your body that is often neglected, but incredibly important, what we call the posterior chain. This includes your glutes, your hamstrings, and the muscles along your lower back. These muscles play a major role in supporting your spine and maintaining proper posture. The problem is, in modern life, many people spend long hours sitting, and that leads to these muscles becoming weak and tight over time. When that happens, your lower back is forced to compensate, and that's when chronic lower back pain starts to develop. And once that pain sets in, it often leads to reduced movement, which then creates a cycle of further weakness and inactivity. Lower back pain is actually one of the most common reasons people become sedentary. And being sedentary is one of the biggest risk factors for long-term health problems.